Welcome to Power Women of the Trades podcast. This show is all about breaking barriers and changing the game. Our guests will feature some of today's most successful female entrepreneurs and other advocates of our industry as well. Because if there's one thing we know for sure, female-led entrepreneurship drives change on multiple levels. We want to empower women in the trade industry like you so you can maximize your potential, stay balanced, achieve long-term success, and claim ownership over your life. Let's get started. Welcome back to part 2 of this episode featuring our guest, Angela Miller.
What do you think the most rewarding thing of your position? What's the most rewarding thing in your position that you on a regular day are like? Because to me, if you want me to be honest with you, I don't think I would want your job, respectfully.
Well, it would be really hard.
No competition.
You have to be the bridge. It's like you're literally, okay, the way that I look at it, and nobody wants to talk about that, Brett and I talk about that, which is me and my husband do this together. You've got all the talk of private equity and mergers and acquisitions. They're over here in this different world that we're like, we didn't grow up in that world.
Yeah, right.
We're blue collar and we're proud of it, right?
Right.
Like, we're proud of it,
right. And
now we're doing well for ourselves, and we don't need you to come over here. But it's happening, right? And then you're like, okay, maybe there can be some synergy there. So you start talking about it, but then you've got a whole crowd of people who are like, it's so divisive.
Well, I just feel like you would have
and there's a divide.
I feel like, and I just feel like you would have this almost like maybe a little guard up, because you already know you're walking in the bad guy in a scenario you did nothing in.
Yeah. I mean, it could,
True.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible that we are the bad guy. I
For
mean,
a minute. Because you're like, you're just doing your job to make it.
And you're coming here, and again, let me back up for a second, because I think someone's going to be so happy this is on recording. Someone somewhere is going to be like, Leslie, send us the recording of Cassie saying that. I used to be like held to the no on private equity, okay? Because I got such a negative piece in my brain from so many. The truth is, be mad at me if you want, but not all private equity is doing it right. They have not.
No,
okay?
I agree.
They have made probably your job harder and the good guy's job much harder, because you're having to overcompensate. That's the right word. Overcompensate for something. So for me, if this were me in this scenario, I'm going to be like,
you feel like you're already working at a disadvantage.
Yeah,
and you're trying to overcome objections before they happen.
But everything that's been planted into my brain has been fed to me by watching. There is from watching either friends, partners, the wrong people.
Well, it's like what's happening in our world. You have what is being shown what's happening, and then what's really happening. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you're trying to bridge that gap and be... integrate two worlds that seemingly have to coexist.
Yeah. So for a long time, I kept thinking what I was saying is like, I was like the heck to the no, right? Yeah. I'm not saying by any means that I'm out just like, hey, let's go do this. But I do see a different side of it now, especially through our podcast and who we've gotten to interview and talk to. But that's taken work of me actually being able to see boots on the ground and being open to it, being more open-minded, but also actually seeing the good stories, because the only time you see the bad stories is when it didn't work out, or this whatever happens there, and you're just like, oh my gosh. So that makes me, because I'm like a defender by nature, and I just want to protect people, and I want to I'm not going to let this happen.
And there's been, especially in the past 2 years, and just in our space,
for the longest time, our space was, and I think I got a little bit of frustration in my own market of how it went down in our market, and, one company purchasing 5 companies and operating as one. I think that's shady. I don't think that's right, but I've been able to come around to the understanding that it doesn't all go down like that.
Right.
There's there's actually people like you that are going in and doing a great job and really wanting to help these people.
And it's a blessing to the owners. And
also it's a blessing.
It's transparent.
What I've seen is it's a blessing to the employees, but they don't see it yet.
Well, because I just think when it's just like you can love a business all day, but they're not leaving 5-star reviews. You're only seeing the 1-star review.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, what about all the people that were happy?
Right.
But the 1-star people, they're going to let everybody know.
Yeah.
You know?
We got a lot of passion when it comes to private equity. Oh, well, I do.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and I think there's a lot of private equity companies or partners, I don't know what you want to call them, groups, let's call them groups, that are new to the space and they don't understand it, or they're and so when they do that and they want to get into the space, they have FOMO. And so I think that's when it can kind of go, I think, sideways a bit. And it's two things. One is the expectation. Everyone has certain expectations. And if you're not communicating those clearly up front, and being, to your point, transparent, that's where it can kind of go sideways. Because if the two parties aren't, the expectations aren't clear, then everyone has, there's differences and they're going to be felt.
I think the interesting piece with Ken's group is Ken did the work, and Ken was a contractor or is a contractor,
and maybe
or whatever.
We need to talk a little bit about that. Like, we're assuming everyone knows who Goettl and Ken is, and I wanted to say that at the beginning, and I know that we know, but maybe everyone doesn't know. Could we talk a little bit about Goettl and Ken, and because that is impactful for her story?
Yeah, for sure. So can you share? I guess you know Ken.
I do know Ken. Yeah. So ultimately, Ken has always kind of, I think, Goettl has always been in Ken's life a little bit. So, anybody that goes on, I guess, the internet and looks up Ken Goodrich will know the 10-year-old boy story. Right. So he grew up in the business. He was a 10-year-old boy. His dad made him go out, on rooftops in the middle of summer at night, holding the flashlight for him, or, hey, go get me this tool. So he was forced into the trade like many, I think, guys, and maybe even women. And so from there, at the time, Goettl actually produced heating and air conditioning units, package units out of Phoenix. So he ran into them when he was younger. And then, he ended up buying his father's business from his mother when he passed away. So his dad passed away. He bought the family business, and which
was not named Goettl.
It was not. Yeah. So it was at the time Racy. And then he learned the hard way.
Okay, so then where did Goettl come from?
Because they were the manufacturer.
So he was the manufacturer, and we were actually, he had sold his business. He's done this a few times. He sold his previous business and then left to, basically bought Goettl from ARS in 2013. So that's how he ended up getting Goettl, is he had an opportunity. He just, really enjoyed them.
No longer. So basically, the way I understand the story or interpret the story is Goettl was a manufacturer that it was like Carrier or Train or whatever. It was Goettl. That wasn't something that was really sold in our area, so we haven't seen that name a ton.
Okay.
And then he purchased it in 2013 and then moved it into a service business.
So it stopped producing before he purchased it. So, I think anyone... It was just a name. He purchased the name. He purchased two businesses. One was in Phoenix and one was in Tucson. And from there, 2 branches. We now have 12 branches in 4 different states.
Is Goettl in?
4.
Okay.
So
Are y'all in Oklahoma and I don't know it?
We're not in Oklahoma.
And then most of the time, she said,
not yet.
Most of the time,
you better
too,
watch
and then
it, Angela.
Whenever you purchase or acquire, the name stays the same. correct?
Well, it depends on the brand. It depends
If
on
there's
the
brand
brand.
identity
brand
or
identity,
whatever,
okay.
brand
Yeah, so-
equity in the market.
Yeah, so Goettl, we really have I think, a unique strategy in the PE space, meaning that we do want to have the Goettl brand as the brand.
Yeah.
And I think that there's leverage in that for building a business, and there's value in the PE space that is, that I think adds value.
Right.
Now, we are not blind to the fact that there's brand equity that exist in the businesses that we buy. So we don't come in day one and rip off the sign.
Microeconomies where you probably don't want the audience to know people from California are coming in to buy this local business. I mean, there's
Right.
definitely
Or, yeah.
that.
That wouldn't
You
go
have
over well
to
in
handle
Oklahoma.
it. Well, I'm
Right.
thinking there's
Right.
probably
Yeah.
that delicate
Well, and
times you have
again,
to.
there's a lot of people in their region that know Goettl, the distributor, or the manufacturer, so they're going to recognize
never
that name.
knew that.
Oh yeah. So
Okay.
that's, I think, which is intriguing because
So
he wanted to buy
interesting.
this. He wanted to buy the name because he worked on the Goettl machines with his dad, right?
Yeah.
Am I making Ken's story up?
No, you've got it. Yeah.
I didn't know. I think
I
that
think Ken is like one of these guys in the area.
he's an
a good
icon. I've never met Ken.
He's just a good dude. The Sadie dog a few years ago, it was like through COVID, like I had posted something on Facebook for something, I don't know, but he sent my daughter Haley a package
that's
of
so
Sadie
cute.
dogs and
Is that their
and
mascot?
pins and the flashlights and things, and just like things that he wasn't like prospecting me or business
Just
or
nice.
anything. He was just doing a really nice, genuine thing, and I think he's a good dude.
That reminds me of that meme that you see all the time that's like, you can't hurt my feelings. I used to have to hold the flashlight for my dad.
100%, and that's a story he tells too. And then he's got the flashlight.
Yeah.
He gives those flashlights out, and
like-
then the other interesting piece of Ken is what's the name of the book?
Oh, the E-Myth.
The E-Myth. He was a big fan of the E-Myth, and
Did
then he
you
got
actually
to
read it, Cassie?
Yes, but there's more to the E-Myth story because the E-Myth is a whole bit different thing with Michael Gerber. And then Ken was like such a believer in the E-Myth that he got to like rewrite the book with Michael
For
Gerber
contractors?
for contractors. And so that is, she's joking because she sends me like 9 million books. I'm like, how do you have time to listen to all
I'm a
these?
reader, and I'm like, did you read it? Did you read it?
And I'm
like,
like,
you need to read this. You need to read this.
No. I tried. I started it. I downloaded it, but I did get really far in. I didn't finish it. I did get the way my ADHD is set up. I just can't really get into those books. I try really hard, but I always try to take the nuggets. That was probably one of the a monumental thing for our space, where now these people starting these businesses had not just the E-Myth, but the E-Myth for HVAC contractors. And we didn't have those things before. We just like, I still say to this day, like, sometimes when I'm having a fit, never could that happen. I'm like, who in the heck gave me the keys to this business? Who even said I was
can
capable?
I give them back?
Like, here you go. Because no one gave us a playbook. No one told us what to do. It's a lot of trial and error, but there are people out there doing good work with like Ken, and that's great. And then giving you a position, not just giving you a position, you earned that position,
Right.
but please don't let me sound like I was discounting that.
Goodness,
But
this is
you were
taking a
able
turn.
you were able to start as a CSR. And I think that's my favorite part of what this podcast is becoming, is that we're able to show the different ways that you can still be in the trades and do work in the trades that you had no clue were capable of. Like, you started as a CSR for a best practice group, and then you were able to just keep it through this journey. And now 16 years later, still working with Ken, and 16 years ago, you probably had 16 years ago, Ken,
You were applying for a job.
Yeah, you were applying for a job. And Ken, 16 years ago, I don't know the timeline for sure, but I know definitely at one point, Ken was not able to do everything he's doing now, right?
Right. I mean, I think one of the things that makes Ken such a great, I guess maybe even an icon. Let's call him an icon, because he is the fact that he's gone through it. He's made all the mistakes. It wasn't.
He's gone. I don't know if he's gone bankrupt. I maybe made that up. Almost gone bankrupt. Almost lost it all. Basically, almost lost it all. But then he's the I was going to say Mike Tyson, but I don't know sports well enough. Is that the right guy?
I don't know.
The guy, he's the victory. He's the one that's like, he's literally done the work. The example, yeah. Done the work, about lost it all. Started
we need
over.
to know more sports lingo when we do these.
We do suck at sports lingo.
Yeah.
But, he did. He almost lost it all. And he said that. He's like, and he had to rally back together. And I think that was one of the biggest, when I really started following him through social media, was when I was relatable to that. Of like, I needed to, how are we going to make it through this? And then knowing that there was someone who almost lost it all and was able to, because that's true for quality. That's true for our company. We almost lost it all going through our new construction days, and when you want to tap out and be like, just forget it. There was that person that thank God I found him on social media and was like, but it can still work out.
Yes, it can still work out. Okay, so because you've talked about being a CSR, now you're in integrations, you've had a lot of different roles. What has your favorite been? Or do you have a favorite?
I mean, I really love what I do now because it really takes kind of all aspects of the business. Mm-hmm. I'm bridging the gaps between all the departments. I spend time, almost, and I joke about how I mediate between operations and accounting because they speak different languages. Yeah. And so a lot of times I'm like, you guys are talking about the same thing. Yeah. So I just kind of help bring them, help them bring them along.
You're almost a counselor.
Yeah.
You're a mediator.
You are a mediator. Yeah. I bet there's some joy in finding I can just kind of think what I would think of. Maybe there's some joy in, because as owners, there's so often that we're just like, what are we doing? Do we know what we're doing? Mm-hmm. And so there's probably some joy for when the owners finally recognize it. And then when you guys take over and you get to see them recognize it, of you are running a good business. And it was I think there has to be some joy of and then helping the next leaders, because I'm certain, for the growth of Goettl, these leaders that are in there, that's one thing that's always intrigued me of so many people have knocked on our door and I'm like, no. But then in the back of my brain, I'm like, but am I holding back these people from future growth for them that could be nationwide? That's really gives me a little bit of goosebumps of am I holding back by not doing that? Because these people that we've empowered to go do big things, what if they're your story that could be the next you, and I could potentially be holding them back? That makes me a little... Anyways.
Well, I think there's timing of everything, right? But if the timing's not right for you, it's not going to be right for your team, because you're even after the sale, you're still the leader and you're still leading them. I think one interesting, I guess maybe kind of fact is that the integrations team that I've put together are actually everyone on the integrations team actually came from an acquired company. Oh, wow. So there's not somebody that has been with kind of, I guess, Goettl since the beginning. Mm-hmm. They've all
bring unique qualities because they've been on the ground.
And then unique perspectives of the process.
Yeah.
Because again, you have people like me
that's really smart.
Yeah, you have people like me that are just but have that in the back of that negativity for so long that I'm trying to come around to, and I don't want my team to start panicking. They're like, what's happening? That's not that at all. It's just that I have been able to slowly start recognizing what could be over time for people, and I don't ever want to be what holds someone back, Yep. And the growth of our industry, I think through the years, especially through COVID, that's just significant change and mentality of.
That's when I feel like we started our business and then COVID happened, so we're so young to the space and we grew so fast during COVID that anytime I talk to someone, and because you've been doing it so much longer, y'all talk about, and then COVID, and I'm like, we started it. It's an interesting, because there were so many shifts, but we had no foundation to compare it to as far as the industry.
Yeah. It's just crazy.
And then what COVID caused after.
Yeah.
As far as money being pumped out. But I mean, which is a different conversation, but it's always interesting to hear that perspective, because I'm like, this is all...
That's crazy. Yeah. I have really enjoyed our conversation with you.
Yeah, really interesting.
I think it's a good. I think it's good. It was a good conversation for me because I need to. be better at the conversations, because again, and no, everyone's going to be like, no way, Cassie, we didn't know that you had such a cold heart to this for so long. Right. But it's just because I have that mama in me, that protector in me. But I think the more that private equity has stuck around, the good companies are outshining or shining and showing like, hey, we are actually a great option.
It can be done well.
It can be done well. And when we do it, we have really great processes to help lead you through. And so if someone wanted to contact you, or is that something that is allowed? Can people contact you to discuss?
What's the best way for them to reach you? Do you have an email?
So yeah, I'll just say it's angela.miller@goettl.com. That's probably the
Spell Goettl.
Goettl. It'll keep you cool, but it's hard to spell.
Yeah.
I'll throw that in there. That is probably the best way to get a hold of me right now. I'm constantly traveling. And then I'm happy to spend time with people. I mean, that's how I kind of, got to the position that I'm in, is because other people spent time with me and trained me. Mm-hmm. So you get to a point, I think you just want to give back. So if there's, questions, perspective, hey, here's what I would, I'm obviously just going to give it from my perspective and my experience. Always, again, good CPAs and attorneys. But I think that, I'm happy to talk to anybody.
If you had to last advice for anyone that's either going through this right now,
or
that's struggling, or thinking about it, what's the one thing, if you could tell them nothing else, that you would give? What advice would you give them?
This is a pressure question.
It is a little bit of a pressure question, because there's so many aspects. I think there's so many aspects we could, continue to dig into. I think it's come up several times in this conversation, is finding that right partner. Mm-hmm. Is really finding somebody that you want to work with. Yeah. And I think that if you do that, the rest will, I think, kind of work out.
It'll all come out in the wash. That's what they say.
Someone you can build a life with. It's like getting married.
It is
getting married. Right, for sure. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us.
Thanks for coming over.
Enlightening us with all the things, because I learned a lot here.
Yeah, I really liked today's conversation. It was good.
Well, thank you for having me.
This has been Power Women of the Trades. Like what you hear so far? Leave us a review in Apple, and make sure to listen to our other episodes wherever you enjoy listening to your podcasts. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.